The Russo-Persian War of 1804 to 1813 was a significant conflict that unfolded in the early 19th century, fundamentally shaping the geopolitical landscape of the Caucasus and the broader region. This war, fought between the Russian Empire and the Persian Empire under the Qajar dynasty, was not merely a clash of armies but a pivotal event that reflected the broader imperial ambitions of Russia and the decline of Persia's influence in the region. The outcome of the war had long-lasting consequences, leading to the Treaty of Gulistan, which redrew boundaries and altered the balance of power in the Caucasus. The roots of the Russo-Persian War can be traced back to the ambitions of both empires. The Russian Empire, under Tsar Alexander I, was keen on expanding its influence southward, particularly into the Caucasus, a region that was strategically vital and rich in resources. The Persian Empire, ruled by Fath Ali Shah Qajar, sought to maintain its control over its northern territories, including present-day Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia, which were seen as integral parts of the Persian realm. However, Persia was increasingly facing internal instability and external pressures, making it vulnerable to Russian expansionism. The immediate cause of the war was the Russian annexation of the Kingdom of Kartli-Kakheti, modern-day Georgia, in 1801. Georgia had long been a battleground between the Ottoman, Persian, and Russian empires, with each seeking to exert control over the strategically located region. The Georgian king, Erekle II, had initially sought protection from Russia against Persian and Ottoman incursions. However, following his death and the subsequent political instability in Georgia, Tsar Paul I of Russia moved to annex the kingdom outright. This act of annexation was perceived by Persia as a direct affront to its sovereignty, as Georgia had historically been under Persian suzerainty, even though its control had weakened over time. The annexation of Georgia set the stage for a broader conflict. The Persian Empire, under Fath Ali Shah, refused to recognize Russian claims over Georgia and viewed the Russian presence in the Caucasus as a threat to its northern frontier. Tensions escalated when Russian forces, under General Pavel Tsitsanov, advanced into Persian-held territories in the South Caucasus, particularly focusing on regions like Yerevan, modern-day Yerevan, and Armenia and Ganja. Tsitsanov's aggressive tactics, including the brutal sack of Ganja in 1804, further inflamed hostilities and solidified the Persian resolve to resist Russian expansion. The war itself was marked by a series of battles, sieges, and skirmishes, with both sides experiencing victories and setbacks. The conflict was characterized by the rugged and difficult terrain of the Caucasus, which posed significant logistical challenges for both armies. The Russians, despite their superior military technology and better organization, found it difficult to secure a decisive victory due to the inhospitable landscape and the guerrilla tactics employed by Persian and local forces. One of the key battles of the war was the Siege of Yerevan in 1804. General Tsitsanov led a Russian force in an attempt to capture the strategic city, which was a vital stronghold for the Persians. However, the siege ended in failure for the Russians, with Tsitsanov unable to break through the city's defenses. The failed siege highlighted the difficulties faced by the Russian military in subduing Persian-held territories and mark a significant setback in their campaign. Despite early Persian successes, the tide of the war began to turn in favor of Russia as the conflict dragged on. The Russian military, under the leadership of generals like Pyotr Kotlyarevsky and Ivan Gudovich, gradually gained the upper hand, capturing key territories such as Derbent, Baku, and Shusha. These victories were crucial in weakening Persian control over the Caucasus and bolstering Russian claims in the region. The capture of Baku, in particular, was a significant blow to Persian influence, as the city was not only a strategic port on the Caspian Sea, but also an important center for trade and commerce. The war also saw the involvement of various local powers and ethnic groups, who played a critical role in the conflict. The Caucasus was a mosaic of different peoples, including Armenians, Azerbaijanis, Georgians, Lesgians, and others, each with their own interests and allegiances. Many of these groups were caught between the two empires, with some aligning with the Russians and others with the Persians, depending on their own local concerns and rivalries. The complex interplay of these local dynamics added another layer of complexity to the war, making it not just a conflict between two empires, but also a struggle for influence among the various peoples of the Caucasus. The war also had a significant impact on the civilian population of the region. The Caucasus, with its diverse and multi-ethnic population, was heavily affected by the conflict. Many villages and towns were ravaged by the war, leading to widespread displacement and suffering. The war disrupted trade and agriculture, leading to economic hardship for the local population. Additionally, the conflict exacerbated existing ethnic and religious tensions, leading to further violence and instability in the region. As the war progressed, it became increasingly clear that Persia was unable to sustain a prolonged conflict against the more powerful Russian Empire. The Persian military, although large in numbers, was poorly equipped and lacked the discipline and organization of the Russian forces. Furthermore, the internal political instability within Persia, coupled with economic difficulties, hampered its ability to effectively prosecute the war. In contrast, Russia, despite facing its own challenges, including conflicts with Napoleon in Europe, was able to maintain a sustained military campaign in the Caucasus. The war eventually culminated in the Treaty of Gulistan in 1813, which marked the end of hostilities and formalized the outcome of the conflict. Under the terms of the treaty, Persia ceded significant territories to Russia, including Dagestan, Georgia, most of modern-day Azerbaijan, and parts of Armenia. The treaty effectively ended Persian control over the Caucasus and established Russian dominance in the region. The loss of these territories was a significant blow to Persia, both strategically and psychologically, as it marked the beginning of the empire's decline and the erosion of its influence in the Caucasus. The Treaty of Gulistan also had long-term implications for the region. It laid the groundwork for further Russian expansion into the South Caucasus and the eventual incorporation of these territories into the Russian Empire. The loss of the Caucasus further weakened Persia, making it more vulnerable to future Russian encroachments, as seen in the subsequent Russo-Persian War of 1826 to 1828. Additionally, the treaty sowed the seeds of future conflicts in the region, as the redrawn boundaries and the imposition of Russian rule over diverse and often resistant populations created new sources of tension and unrest. In the broader context of Russian and Persian history, the Russo-Persian War of 1804 to 1813 was a pivotal moment that reflected the shifting balance of power between the two empires. For Russia, the war was a key step in its imperial expansion into the Caucasus, a region that would become an important part of its empire. The conflict also demonstrated Russia's growing military and political power in the 19th century, as it was able to extend its influence despite facing challenges on multiple fronts, including in Europe. For Persia, the war marked the beginning of a period of decline, as it struggled to defend its territories against more powerful neighbors. The loss of the Caucasus was a significant blow to the Qajar dynasty and highlighted the internal weaknesses of the Persian state. The Russo-Persian War also had broader implications for the international relations of the time. The conflict attracted the attention of other European powers, particularly Britain, which was concerned about Russian expansion in the region. Britain, which had its own interests in Persia and India, sought to counter Russian influence through diplomatic and military means, leading to the so-called Great Game in Central Asia. The war thus played a role in the broader geopolitical struggles of the 19th century, as European powers vied for influence in Asia and the Middle East. In conclusion, the Russo-Persian War of 1804 to 1813 was a significant and complex conflict that had profound consequences for the Caucasus and the broader region. It was a war marked by strategic ambitions, military struggles, and the intricate dynamics of a multi-ethnic region caught between two empires. The war not only reshaped the political landscape of the Caucasus, but also reflected the broader trends of imperial expansion, decline, and the shifting balance of power in the 19th century. The Treaty of Gulistan, which ended the war, marked the beginning of a new era in the region's history, one dominated by Russian influence and the gradual decline of Persian power. The legacy of the war and its outcomes continue to resonate in the history and geopolitics of the Caucasus to this day.